And like I said earlier, Combyne is a crop marketing management tool designed for farmers. And by tracking inventory, trade documents, and net market positions, Combyne really makes it easy to do more informed crop marketing decisions. And we're looking to launch our version 1 of the integration here soon that we'll learn more about, and we'll learn more about on that version 1 from Alain, Laura, and Patrick, which leads to the introduction of you guys there, which is on the next slide. And I'll start with just talking through it. Alain is the CEO of Combyne. He grew up on a mixed dairy and cash crop farm in Ontario, Canada, so a farmer himself. Prior to Combyne, he led operations at 2 venture-backed ag tech and wind energy startups, and has led various operational and strategy engagements with McKinsey & Company in their agribusiness team. Earlier in his career, Alain was a field engineer and a project manager within Air Liquide, building chemical plants across the globe. And now, leveraging his background in agriculture, technology, and chemistry and law, Alain is a passionate builder of teams and innovations across agriculture, energy, and technology. He was closely with Laura, the Director of Partnerships and Business Development at Combyne Ag. And Laura really focused on making Combyne work seamlessly with farmers' existing tools like FieldView. Prior to joining the Combyne team, Laura led an innovation team at KWS, so a global seed company, exploring new technologies in agriculture. She holds a degree in agricultural engineering from the Ohio State University. And last but not least, we've got Patrick Lee, who's a user researcher at Combyne with over 6 years of experience in conducting qualitative and quantitative research within agricultural communities in a wide variety of contexts. Patrick, in his day-to-day job, conducts research trips and online research sessions with actual users of the Combyne platform, so that the Combyne team can always see things from a farmer's perspective and then keep things up to date with what truly matters for the farmer, and continually hear and implement these ideas and feedback in the product development cycle. That being said, I'm happy to hand it over to Alain to give you an overview on what Combyne is, and then move through the session from here.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Mark. So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'll take a bit of time today to give you an overview of what Combyne is, and then Laura will give you a demo and so forth. So I'll try not to spend too much time on explaining what the product is. I think it's more interesting to kind of see it come to life. But without further ado, to give you sort of this first overview of Combyne. So let's start from sort of the beginning. Laura, do you want to? Yeah. So really, how do we define Combyne? I think a very crisp, simple way to think about it is we really want to focus on the crop marketing side. And so we define Combyne as a crop marketing management system built for farmers. A lot of our thesis is centered on even some of my own experience on our own farm, whereby we think there's been a lot of very interesting tools built for grain buyers and grain originators that work very well for their workflow. But marketing grain from a farmer point of view is a slightly different set of jobs to be done and decisions to be made. And so we felt there's a need in the industry to build something really centered around farmers that ties together all the information relevant to crop marketing. And so when we take this notion that Combyne is a crop marketing management system built for farmers, and we kind of try to build on that. And so what is it exactly that we're trying to build? Laura, just next slide. What we're really trying to say is we define our mission as helping farmers and their trusted advisors on the grain marketing side. So whether it's on risk management related to price, to crop insurance, just general market analysis, how to optimize the revenue and risk decisions that are all related to that. So that's really what we define as what Combyne is trying to do. Very important is we don't get into the advisory side, but we really build the software that enables all that. And so kind of when we look at the world of how a farm generally operates, there's really two big drivers of the revenue side of the farm: production and marketing. We really focus on the marketing side. You could view FieldView as really focused on the production side. Combyne is sort of where FieldView ends, Combyne starts, focusing on the marketing side of all the decisions and information that needs to be organized in that area from a farmer point of view. So let's talk a little bit about what that information is at our foundational level from our point of view. So the way we look at it is really farmers are kind of managing two big general areas of information when they're managing the marketing of their crop. If you kind of look at the left-hand side, you're really looking at sort of the full cycle through a crop year between kind of what you're thinking of growing or planning to grow, what's actually in the field growing, what's being harvested, what's being truly weighed at a grain cart level, what's being stored, and eventually it's not only just the quantity of bushels, but in a lot of crops, the quality of those bushels. So kind of think of the left-hand side, really the assembly of what it is you have or your inventory, and really between what you're planning on growing or expect to have, right? Acres times expected yield projections to what you actually have, and then what you're storing versus what's already delivered. So like that's a big area that we see value in keeping organized. And then on the right-hand side is really sort of the contract and the full life cycle of that, which is really, as we define it, what have you committed to whom and where are you in those commitments? So you're forward contracting, you're starting to book bushels. As you harvest, you start delivering against that. You got to keep track of what you've delivered to whom, which contracts are filled, which ones are still open. And especially if you're a farmer that's working with more than one grain buyer and or more than one commodity, this sort of mix of information on both sides starts creating a lot of different things to stay on top of and track. And so our view is first getting a really good firm hand on all this foundational information is very important. So if you kind of look at what's the foundational piece of product we've built, Laura, it's I think you're skipping one ahead there. Oh no, okay, well it's fine. Let's flip ahead. Next slide. And I'll flip back to this one. So really, this is sort of the core of Combyne is around this. It's around organizing the inventory information. So the quantity of bushels, the quality of bushels, tracking both new crop and old crop. We're about to launch the capability to track all on-farm storage at a full level of detail. But we're really our end goal, and we'll talk a bit about some of the first things we're working on with FieldView and other partners, is to import everything that describes how many bushels you have, the quality of those bushels directly without a need to kind of type anything in. The second big data structure is anything related to all the transaction records, so contracts, delivery, settlements, and we call it Combyne because we want to combine all that information in one place and notably unify anything across multiple commodities and multiple buyers. And what we've embedded in the app is actually the capability to fully read, scan, and extract the core information in a standard format, regardless if you're receiving PDFs, paper, email statements. But really our end goal is actually to unify this information directly by getting a lot of the back office software with the grain buyers to talk directly to Combyne. And so when you put those two things together, you really have that true view of what's your marketed position, what are your inventory positions, what's contracted, not contracted, what's exposed from a price point of view, or which percentage of your yield has already been marketed, what's your cash flow going to look like, all these things. So this is sort of where we say this is where the true nature of crop marketing management shows up. So just to explain a little bit some of the parsing technology, or if you want to flip back, one of the things that we've built into the app is the ability to take a PDF, a picture, forward an email, and what we literally do is we pull out all the important information that speaks to the commodity name, the quantity, the delivery window, the price, so that you basically get an automated update of inventory and marketed positions without the need to type. I think this might sound like it's a fairly simple thing, but the whole point was to say if you're going to help organize a lot of different pieces of information. Let's make the whole process of assembling that information really easy. So this leads a little bit to where we're going increasingly forward with Combyne now that we've got this foundation in place. 2 slides ahead, Laura. So when we kind of look at the world, one of the big things we set out when we thought about Combyne, and the irony being, we think there's still a lot of siloed information in ag tech, but particularly in grain marketing. Not only just tracking what inventory of bushels is where between projections to realized. If you're working with multiple grain buyers, you're probably dealing with different portals and different apps that are proprietary to each of them. Yet from a farmer point of view, you'd want to kind of unify all that information in one place or combine it. So one of the big things we're trying to push is to really break down these information silos. And that's something that we call Combyne Connect. So if we move forward sort of where we're going with the app in general, this is sort of the next big thing that we're launching here, and FieldView being our first launch partner on this, which is to pull in all that crop inventory information. Well, if we can pull planted acres and projected yields from one place, if we can pull yield maps or yield totals per field, and eventually if we can pull directly from grain cart reports, we can really pull in that inventory information. And then the next focus for us is going to be the quality side. One thing that's very important in our approach is we take a completely neutral view, both towards the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So there are kind of 4 different grain cart companies out there. We would integrate with all 4 over time. That's our goal. There are a couple different software suites, FieldView, John Deere Operations, that will typically track acres and projected yields and things like that. So we want to make sure that Combyne should interoperate with all of those. And then similarly on the right-hand side, a lot of the PDFs, the portals, the pieces of paper that are shown to farmers to track their grain account statuses with different grain buyers, that actually exists in a software in the back office of a grain buyer. And our view is to really help pull that directly and get Combyne to talk directly to that software to kind of skip the step of having to take things in digital format, turn them into a PDF and make them digital again. And so this is sort of the big thesis and the big thing we're pushing here with Combyne Connect. As over the next couple of months, you're going to start seeing us roll out these things and bring all this crop marketing information into one single app and get rid of those areas of siloed information. So that's kind of Combyne today, and let me just talk briefly on where we're going from here. So the app is a paid system. It's however you can try it and get the full feel of all the functionality for free with one commodity and process up to 100 documents. But really, and then the sort of plan is just sub 200 Canadian or 160 US a year. That allows you to basically manage all your commodities, all your transaction documents in the one single place. Now, our broader vision is, well, today we're very much focused on sort of getting really good foundational grain accounting together. Our bigger view is we think when it comes to really truly managing grain marketing, you're optimizing across a multitude of dimensions. So right now we're very much focused on helping the tracking of cash sales and different contract types. So fixed price, target offers, basis only, futures only, or hedge to arrive. Those are all things that we help organize inside Combyne. We track storage. We help people understand what's full, what's not full, which grain is coming out of which bin for those farmers that track that. For farmers who don't have so much of a full inventory tracking need, the app works just as well. But we also see grain marketing as also highly interacting with different risk management tools. So really crop insurance, yield production, revenue protection will inform, in our view, what kind of strategies you should be thinking of in marketing in the physical market. And the other component is obviously for the farmers who use financial hedging instruments, futures and options. This always interacts obviously with physical. So top and right is really the physical grain accounting and grain marketing management, and then left and bottom is the more financial and hedging side. But our ultimate vision is how do you unify all this strictly from a farmer point of view to say, let's truly optimize the value of every bushel that a farmer will market, whether on their own or with the help of an advisor who helps them on these dimensions. So Laura's going to give you a demo of the product. Obviously, it's easy for me to talk about it, but I think it'll come more to life as we demo it. So I'll let Laura take it away from here. And then after that, we'll kind of go through a few more things and then eventually have a Q&A from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Alon. Okay, as mentioned, I'm going to take over for the fun part. I get to show you guys the app. Everybody likes seeing a demo, right? So let me go ahead and pull this up. 1 second, let me transition to the demo. Okay, a couple quick disclaimers before we get into this. The Combyne app is designed for farmers, as Alon mentioned, and we know that farmers are on the go. People are out in the field, they're on their phones. So one disclaimer is I'm showing you the web version of Combyne today, but the app is designed to work on iOS and Android as well. So all of the functionality that you'll see in the web version also exists in the mobile one. And in fact, it looks a little bit better on the mobile version because it's purposely optimized to be used on a phone. But just as a quick disclaimer there. And then the second quick disclaimer there is I'm showing you my demo account today. So some of the numbers in here might look a little bit wonky. Some of the farmers here are going to potentially hold me to a couple prices. Some prices might look a bit off, but just roll with it. So here's the Combyne app. This is my home screen. So this is what I first see when I open up the app. But if I were a farmer that were just starting off my journey in Combyne for the very first time and just creating a Combyne account for the very first time, I would actually start off in the inventory section of the app. So inventory is really the foundation for Combyne. Basically, this is where I start and start entering my inventory so I can get an idea of things like my net marketed position and begin to get all the value that I can out of Combyne. So with inventory, you can see I can manage inventory for multiple crop years. So if you take a look in the top left corner here, I can tab back to crop that I have from back in 2021, which is maybe things that I've completely sold and don't have on my farm anymore, or maybe there's some grain that's left over sitting in a bin somewhere that I completely forgot about. I can see crops that I harvested last year. So here's my 2022 inventory. And as you can see, I can see a handy, nice big net marketed position for each crop type that I grow. I can get a nice alert if I've oversold. So as you can see with canola, I'm getting a nice big red alert there that I've committed too much. And then I can also tab to anticipated inventory. So if I'm looking at 2023, this is logically a crop that I have out in the field right now that's growing. You can see that it's projected inventory. And then I can also even manage a couple years out if I want to put my crop plans in here that are looking that far ahead. So let's hop back to 2023 and I'll show you a little bit more details here. I'm going to go ahead and hop into my canola so I can see a more granular view. And here you can see a breakdown in a bit more detail of my net marketed position. So with my canola that's coming up for harvest this year, you can see I've already sold 8,000 bushels. So I've forward contracted 8,000 bushels so far. That's across 2 open contracts that I can manage here. And you can see I've also committed. So I have an open target for 4,500 bushels. So I can use Combyne to keep track of what's out there in targets to make sure, when those eventually hit, if they do trigger, I'm not overcommitted and I'm keeping track of what amount of grain I still have available versus what's already promised to someone. So I'm going to hop back to inventory and show you a couple more things. Let's go ahead and hop into my 2022 yellow pea so you can see a few more details here. With my 2022 yellow pea inventory, same thing. Here I get a nice big visual at the top that's super easy to see even if I'm out in the field on a bright sunny day and I can barely see with the screen. Nice big visual here that's showing me, hey, you have about 1,000 bushels left of yellow pea from last year still to sell. And then I can see I've also sold 10,000 bushels so far. And of those 10,000 bushels that I've sold so far, that's split across 3 contracts that I can see I've added to Combyne here. So I have 2 open ones that I'm currently delivering against. And then I also have 1 closed contract that I've fully delivered for. With the open contracts that I'm currently delivering against, I can use Combyne to keep track of my delivery progress. So as I have loads dropped off and I get those load tickets, I can use Combyne to manage those. And then as I fully deliver against that contract, I can keep track of if I've been paid for that contract or not, and paid for those deliveries or not using Combyne. So you can see with my closed one, I've been paid for about half so far. And I'll touch on a bit more details about contract management and Combyne in a bit. But if I keep scrolling down here in my inventory view, I see some inventory details here. So I can see grade. So this is grade number 2. If I have multiple grades for a particular crop, I can manage that here. And then I can also manage what bins I have this crop in. So in this case, I have this in my S2 bin that's in my south yard. If I want to capture any details about this particular bin, like if it's a high moisture corn or something, and I want to keep that separate, I can log some notes there. And then I can also manage quality specs for this inventory. So if I want to track things like, particularly because this is yellow pea, if I want to track splits, I can do so here. And the nice thing about this specifications list is it is dynamic. So depending on what crop I'm growing, this will change. So if I had wheat or something like that here, protein would certainly be one of the things that would show up. So I can keep track of inventory by adding specs right there. I can keep track of storage as mentioned. And then if I keep scrolling down, I see a couple other things in the insight section. The first is this price performance card on the bottom left, and I'm seeing my average contracted price so far. So basically what that is telling me is my average contracted price so far for those 3 contracts I've uploaded for my yellow pea is $9.41 a bushel. I get to see my max and my min. And then I also see a rough estimate of how much money I'll make from this harvest with this crop. It's of course an estimate because as we all know, might get some discounts later on, but gives me a good idea of what I can expect from this crop. And then the other thing I can see on the right here is market insights. And I'm seeing this number about $6,000. So what exactly is that? If I open that, I can see a live cash bid. So what this is a live cash bid that we are pulling in from our partnership with a company called FarmBucks. So FarmBucks is a price discovery platform that gathers cash bids from a bunch of different grain buyers. And we pull that into the Combyne app, and then we show it to you in your inventory section if you have inventory that matches the bid that we have. So this is for grade 2 yellow pea. And then we also only show it if it's within 200 kilometers or about 120 miles of your location. So really nice in that way because this isn't just some abstract price that's not really attainable for me or it's just kind of random. This is a real bid that's really applicable to me and is within my delivery radius, right? So kind of nice. And what I'm seeing is if I take that cash bid, that $5.44 a bushel, and I sell my remaining amount of yellow peas. So again, I had about 1,000 bushels there that were not yet sold. If I sell that at this price, then this is how much money I'd make. So basically helps me keep track of what that pile of grain that's still sitting in my bin is worth in today's dollars. Okay, so let's talk through what would happen next. So let's say I'm looking at this price and I'm thinking, hey, that looks really good. I think I'd actually like to sell my leftover yellow pea at this price. What would happen is I would go and I'd negotiate with my buyer and enter into a deal with my buyer that I normally work with. And all of that happens off of the Combyne app. So Combyne is not actually, we're not a marketplace or anything like that. We're not facilitating a relationship with grain buyers. We're just helping you keep track of your sales and your inventory as you work with the existing buyers that you're used to working with. So let's say I did that. I like this price. I called up my grain buyer. I said, hey, could you do this? They said yes. How could I use Combyne to then keep track of that sale and manage that? What I would do is I would go ahead and add that contract to Combyne to keep track of that sale. So a really easy way I can add a contract into Combyne is by clicking the quick add button in the top right corner here, and then click add a contract. And then as Alon mentioned, there's a couple different ways that I can get a contract into the app. The first is that I can just type that information in, which is the way less fun version. But if I have the details in front of me and I just want to type stuff in, I can do so. And then the other way I can get a contract into Combyne is by uploading it. So I can choose a PDF. So let's say my grain buyer sent me a PDF of the contract through email. I can upload that. Or maybe my grain buyer sent me a paper copy, or I picked it up at the facility the last time I was there. I can snap a photo of that paper contract and then just upload it. And then what Combyne does is it will scan it and pull out the relevant fields and turn that into a digital form for me. So I'll show you exactly what that looks like. I'm going to choose to upload a document. I'm going to go ahead and select my contract that I have saved. I'll click next. And then what happens is that is shot over to Combyne's OCR tool, and Combyne's OCR tool is going to scan it and then pull out the relevant fields. It takes a little bit of time, just a couple minutes, but after the Combyne OCR tool has reviewed and pulled out the information, I'll get a notification that will tell me, hey, your document's now ready for review. So that will show up here in the file section of the app. But you'll also notice right when I opened up the app, I had a couple files to review on my home screen. So that's exactly where this document will show up. I'll get that notification to come in. So here's what that looks like once I'm ready to review the contract. It will show up here, and I can see here are all the details that Combyne's OCR tool pulled out. Sometimes I will candidly say our accuracy is not 100%. So sometimes there are some issues pulling out a couple details. If that's the case, super easy for me to go in and just quickly correct this and say, oh no, it's not bushels, it's metric tons, or it's hundredweight, or something like that. If the price is slightly incorrect, I can modify, but looks like for the most part, it pulled out things as expected. And then as a quick side note there, we actually just rolled out a lot of improvements to this OCR feature. So this process is going a lot quicker. And then we're also applying AI to help with document scanning. I will also add that we are limiting use of AI specifically to help train the OCR tool to better match fields and pull out fields. So recognizing things like CZ equals corn or something like that. We're not aggregating information and anything like that, and using AI to aggregate and anonymize information and come up with market insights. AI at this point is purely just used to help this OCR tool better recognize what these fields are and pull it out. So it's easier for users on Combyne to save time typing and get this information automatically filled out. Okay, so once I've reviewed this grain contract, I can go ahead and just click save. I'd click next, and then it would be applied to my account. I'm just going to skip that for now, not go through the hassle of adding that. But once that document is saved, basically what would happen is Combyne would automatically keep track of that contracted quantity and move it according to the right category to keep my net marketed position automatically up to date. So let's say I added that contract for the remaining 1,200 bushels of yellow pea. As soon as I added that contract, Combyne would move it from the unsold category to the sold. So nice that it automatically keeps my net marketed position up to date. All right, so let's go ahead and fast forward to the fall and say, hey, it's now time for me to deliver against this contract. My delivery window is coming up. How could I use Combyne to keep track of that delivery progress like I see here? The way that I would do that is I would hop over to the deliveries tab, and here I can see a nice handy chart at the top that shows me what deliveries I have coming up that I need to anticipate. So we can see in July, I have a load of soybeans and a load of yellow peas that I need to anticipate. And then I can toggle between the bushel amounts on the left-hand side here and the anticipated cash flows that I'll get from dropping off those deliveries. So of course, again, this is an estimate because it's just based on the contract number, but gives me a good idea of what these deliveries are worth and what I can anticipate coming in terms of cash flow over the next few months. If I go ahead and scroll down, I can see what contracts I currently have ongoing that I'm delivering against. So here you can see I have a soybean contract that's currently open that I've delivered about half of so far. I can see my dockage range front and center, which is nice, so I can keep track of if maybe grading's not super consistent across the loads that I'm delivering. And again, this delivery progress is populated by the load tickets that I've added to Combyne. So load tickets to Combyne can be added the same way that contracts can be added. If you have a paper copy in front of you and you want to snap a photo, you can use Combyne's OCR tool to add the load ticket, and we'll similarly pull out those fields. Or if you want to type the information in, you can. Totally up to you. If I keep scrolling down here, I can see I also have contracts that are coming up. So these are contracts that I need to anticipate delivering against in the future. So you can see I have a fixed price contract with P&H, and then I also have a futures first contract that's coming up with P&H as well. So on that note too, Alon mentioned this in the beginning, but you can manage fixed price contracts in Combyne. Futures first is something you can manage as well, basis first. And then as you saw when we were going through inventory, you can keep track of target price agreements. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you one last thing. Basically, the last section I'd like to walk you guys through is, let's say I've fully delivered against this contract. And I want to use Combyne to keep track of how much I've been paid. How can I do that? Well, I tab over to the financials section, and here I can see all of my closed contracts that I've completely fulfilled. So again, Combyne automatically reconciles things for me. So as I add up all my load tickets, it automatically will keep track of if that contract's been fulfilled, and it will move it from the open contracts to the closed. So here I have a couple closed contracts. Let's go ahead and tab into this one that I sold to Bunge. And here I can see all of the contract details if I want to reference them. If I had uploaded that contract via a PDF, the PDF would show up here, or the photo would show up there. And then I can tab over to whatever documents that are associated with that contract. And here I can see there's 3 load tickets that I added. Which is I can tab into to see those individual loads. But in this case, we're talking about, hey, I want to keep track of if I've been paid for this or not. So let's go ahead and tab into my settlements. So settlements also can be added same way that load tickets are added and same way that contracts are added. You can use the quick add button up here to quickly add that. And you can also use Combyne's OCR to snap a photo or upload the PDF, and we'll scan it and pull out the relevant fields. So looking at settlements, I can see here's my settlement that I got. Here's the total settlement amount. And then we've heard from a lot of folks that, hey, maybe it's I just need the reminder to keep track of if I've actually received the check for this or not. The way that I can do that is I can just click this handy paid button and say, hey, I've been in fact paid for this. So as a nice little reminder there, that will tell me that I have indeed received that check. Okay, so that is the Combyne app. Ran through that, but hopefully that gives you an idea of the core sections of the app. We have inventory management, contract management, and load ticket and settlement management. And hopefully that shows how we are bringing all of your information together across multiple tools to really help you keep track of those trade documents and manage everything in one place, even across multiple grain buyers. The last thing I'll say is what you've seen here in terms of getting information into Combyne. One thing we've really tried to focus on is, hey, we know farmers are busy. Nobody likes sitting down and keying in a bunch of information. So let's try and think about how we can make that process as smooth and seamless for you. We know that a lot of this information, like your inventory, is already being managed in a bunch of other tools that you use. So our OCR feature is one way we've tried to save you some time typing. But we're also, as Alon mentioned, really focused on integrations with the other tools that you use. So we'll talk about this in a bit, but we'll show you a sneak preview of the integration that we're currently working on with FieldView that will make this process of inventory creation in Combyne even more seamless and focus on pulling in things like your total yields and planted acres from your FieldView account to save you even more time typing. And then lastly, we're also working on an integration directly with the grain buyer systems, so that as the contract or the load ticket or the settlement is created by your grain buyer in their tool, we'll be able to integrate with their system and automatically pull it in if you choose to turn that integration on. So we're super excited about that. That's something we're launching in August, so coming up super soon. If that sounds interesting to you, if you want to help us build that feature or test it, we're always looking for farmers who are willing to give us some feedback and help us know whether or not we're building these things in a way that really delivers value to you. So that's the Combyne app. With that, I'm actually going to now turn it over to Patrick from our team, who is going to talk to Kara, who's one of the farmers that uses Combyne, and talk a little bit more about her experience. So Patrick, I will hand it over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Laura. Yep. Thank you everybody for being here today. Obviously here at Combyne, as we mentioned before, we take every chance we get to kind of get out on the road and chat with farmers and try and see things from a farmer's perspective and keep up to date with what really matters to farmers across all the very different agricultural regions in Canada and the USA. So as I mentioned before, I'm a user researcher for the team. My name is Patrick Lee. We very much prioritize conducting user research, understanding and appreciating people's priorities, concerns, along with exploring solutions from the perspectives of those people so we can really innovate. And our research really allows us to ensure that it's the voice of the farmers that really guides the development of the app. So I've had the pleasure of chatting with our next guest, Kara, on a multitude of occasions, and I want to really thank her for being here today. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Kara Anderson, and I'll just make sure to turn on her feed. Let's see. I think it is now turned on. Can you hear me, Kara? Are you able to join the conversation?
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah? Okay, good.
All right. Good morning, Kara. Good to see you.
Good to see
How you doing
as well.
today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to join with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So I guess just wanted to quickly touch base about, I guess really when you first joined Combyne, what made you check out Combyne in the first place? I think that really stuck out.
Yeah, so I believe that this space that Combyne fills is a very needed space in the agriculture industry. I've been grain marketing for my parents' farm, and now I've bought ownership as well. And I always am switching between spreadsheets or pen and paper and something else to follow, okay, what do I have in my bin? What is sold? What's not sold? And it never has flowed very well, especially because you're using different spreadsheets and they're so labor intensive to keep up. And so I've kind of been on the lookout for an app similar to this for a while, and I came in contact with them in May, I believe it is, and I've been just thrilled since I started with how this app really brings together the marketing side of the farm. It really holds everything in one place. So that was kind of what I was looking for it before I found it, and then when I jumped in and I realized you guys were definitely going to be something I wanted to work with, the first thing that triggered my brain and I was like, okay, this is worth digging deeper into was I farm in Canada, and I'm not sure exactly where our entire audience is from, but where we're at, we combine bushels. Sometimes we sell bushels, but usually it's priced in metric ton. And so that conversion is something that we work with constantly. And the first thing I noticed when I opened the app is that you could actually toggle between the two measurements. And I have one broker that always he'll buy bushels, but he'll price it in metric ton. And there is no app that seamlessly does that except for you guys. So I was like, hey, this is worth checking into. They actually understand what it's like to farm here. So yeah.
Okay. That's great to hear. And I guess just in general, how's your experience with Combyne been so far?
I've loved it. The team is really good with, if I have questions, they answer my questions, and if I have ideas and stuff, like, it's very easy to talk with you guys and make sure that it's something that's applicable to my farm. And then when it comes to the actual use, it's so easy to use. Like, I've never found something that was so, I could just, it felt like it just fit before I even had it in my hand. I didn't have to, sit and read a manual or learn how to use this app or try and retrain my brain how this works. It was just completely seamless. So that was one of the best things I would say, is how easy it was to integrate into my farm. And I really love the way that the app starts out with, you can use that one commodity and you have access to the whole app. You can really get a feel for what you're dealing with before you have to put money out there. And yeah, it's been very easy to use. One very relevant scenario that I'll share with you guys is this spring, I was on the phone with a buyer and I was like, hey, this is what we want to sell, whatever. And hung up the phone, and I was actually driving down a road pulling my air seeder as I was on the phone with this guy making this contract. And in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, I sold X amount of bushels of corn. But like, where does that go? Does it just stay in the cab in that moment and that random spot on the road, or do you have to put it somewhere, right? And so as soon as I got to the field, normally I guess I would have wrote it down, or I would have sent a text or an email to myself, something to remember. But now that I have the app, I could already start the contract, and in the afternoon I got the contract, I signed it, and I uploaded it, and it was like 3 clicks, and I had a place that was consistent. Now I send everything to the same place, and it tracks it all. And I mean, your data is only as good as the source, and as long as you're putting everything into the same place, you will know that it's good. You won't find a random piece of paper in a month's time and go, oh, I forgot about that contract, or things like that. So I found that to be a very real scenario of when I used your app and how it really helped me. So, yeah.
Okay. That's fantastic. Thank you. And I guess just an extension of that, could you maybe speak a little bit to how Combyne is helping you achieve your goals on your farm?
My goal is to spend less time in the office, and it definitely does that.
Okay.
With the upload feature or adding a contract, it's just simply a couple of clicks. Like, as long as you know where your document is, then it does all the data entry itself. And I mean, I would normally spend probably, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, entering data or writing it down somewhere. And it takes a couple of seconds to pull that data in, and I get a notification later. And I would say too, I have noticed, as Laura was saying, that the time that it takes to upload or a document ready to review is getting faster and faster, which I mean makes me feel like rest assured that I know that it's in there and I know that it's dealt with. The task is complete. And I would say too that, there are certain things where it's like, oh, I don't understand, because the app wouldn't necessarily know that it was sold in bushels and price in metric ton, but it usually is so seamless. It catches things like that, and it's good for you to review it and lay your eyes on it for a second, but it doesn't take all day, or it doesn't take too much of your morning to do that.
Right. Okay. And I guess what do you, is there anything in your mind that you're looking forward to doing next with Combyne?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fall. So I started using the app in May, and so I still had inventory that I was working with from our previous crop, but I have not gone from projected to in the bin to sold. And so I'm really looking forward to following that through this next season, and see how that all works. I believe it's going to be the most easy to track year we've had, from making sure that I've got numbers that I can send to crop insurance, or that I can send to my accountant for year end and things like that. I think it'll be very handy to have all of those numbers in one place that I can draw from, and I know where I got the number I sent to the guy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm also looking forward to the transition from projected to in the bin. I've never done that process, so actually walking those steps through in your app, I think that'll be good. And yeah, just to see, okay, did we fall short of our projection, or did we grow more than we had projected? I think that those numbers, being able to see that in my hand wherever I am, is going to be something that, yeah, is very valuable.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kara. Really appreciate you kind of lending your thoughts to us today and joining us today. Really, really greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you guys. I love your app.
All right. Well, we appreciate all the feedback.
Awesome.
And on that note, I'll pass it back over to Laura for a little sneak peek of an integration we have coming with FieldView. That's Kara's been also a big part of as well. So.
Awesome. Okay, I keep sharing the wrong window. Thank you so much, Kara. Really great to hear from you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on Combyne. Okay, so now I feel like this is the moment we've all been waiting for. What the heck are we doing with FieldView? Why are we here today at FPX 23? So Alon mentioned this at the top, but we first started off this partnership with FieldView because we saw that, hey, there's just this really nice complementarity here between helping farmers overall manage revenue. FieldView does an excellent job at helping farmers optimize their yield, knowing what variable zones they're dealing with, how their inputs are performing, that type of thing. And Combyne really completes the picture by focusing in on optimizing your marketing. So with our partnership with FieldView, there's a ton that we want to do. I think there's a ton of value that can be created through production optimization tool working together with the marketing optimization tool. So there's a lot we want to do with FieldView, but I will say that we're taking baby steps. So we're starting things in a stepwise manner. But high level, the goals of our partnership are to start with really this top row here. So we're starting by enabling your agronomic data in FieldView to tie to your marketing data in Combyne to help you make more informed decisions. So the first part of our partnership is going to focus on integrating things like total yield coming off of your yield monitor, to automatically populate inventory in Combyne, and then also pulling planted acres from your FieldView account to automatically populate projected inventory in Combyne. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like in a second. We're going to walk through the actual screens. But there's a lot we want to do after that. So that first part is going to be launching in a few months, but beyond that, we're working on doing a lot more together. So we know that we want to eventually help connect the delivered grain outcomes from your load tickets, so things like the grade and the dockage, back to the specific fields that they came from, so you can begin to understand what fields are resulting in what type of grain and how your management choices on those fields are ultimately impacting those end outcomes. And then we also want to lay the foundation for field profitability insights in FieldView. So basically taking, hey, this is how much money I'm making every year from these particular sales of my crop. Here's my cost of production on a per field basis, and then mapping what income is coming off of what fields back to the fields that it came from. So you can start to get those field level profitability insights. We know from talking to users of both FieldView and Combyne, that's kind of like the North Star that we all want to get to, but it's going to take some time to get there. But just want to say that we see FieldView as a long-term partner, and there's a lot we want to do here together. So let's go ahead and show you the actual integration. So I'm going to show you a prototype that we're currently working on. So this is something that's currently being built by the FieldView and Combyne team. So as a disclaimer, some of the exact screens might look a little bit different when it's eventually launched, but core functionality is going to be the same. So when you open up your Combyne account, you're going to go to the account settings section and then to the integration section, and there you will find Climate FieldView. So you'll go ahead and click, hey, I want to connect my Climate FieldView account, and then you'll see if you enable this connection, this is all the information that FieldView and Combyne will share. You'll click connect. You'll then be asked to log into your FieldView account, and then FieldView will also say, hey, by connecting your Combyne account to your FieldView account, that means you're going to send harvest activities and planting activities from FieldView to Combyne. Same thing. You'll click allow, and then your accounts are now connected. So once your accounts are connected, you'll be able to start importing your data from FieldView to ease the process of inventory creation in Combyne. So you'll go ahead and click, hey, I want to start importing. And then when you're creating inventory, you can choose, you of course can still add your inventory manually, but now that you've connected to your FieldView account, you'll have the option to automatically bring in your total yields and planted acres from FieldView. So let's go ahead and choose, I want to import stuff from FieldView. You'll then be prompted to select what crop year you'd like to import from FieldView. So in this case, I'm going to pull in inventory from last year, from 2022, as well as my field plans for 2023. Go ahead and click import. And then I will see what information is available from FieldView that I can map to my Combyne account. So here you can see from 2022, I had a harvest of canola that looks like 45,000 bushels. Then I pulled from FieldView. So this is what came off my yield monitor that FieldView has helped me manage and log. I also see a moisture percentage that came from FieldView. And then I can also see I have planted acres planned for my 2023 hard red spring wheat crop plan. So let's go ahead and start reviewing the top card here. Here, FieldView shows me, hey, again, this is what came off my yield monitor. What I next need to do is assign a grade to this inventory. So let's say out of those 45,000 bushels, there's actually a couple grades. So I'm going to choose some grade 1, about half of that. I'll just type in 25,000 bushels here and say, hey, about half of that is grade 1. And then I'm going to add another grade and say the rest of that is grade 2. Just type that in. And I'll go ahead and click save. And now that has been added to my inventory. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So here, same thing, I get my nice updated net marketed position, but now it's using my real total yield numbers, right? So even better that it's not just a rough estimate that I didn't type in, just roughly I have 40,000 bushels. These are the exact figures that came off my yield monitor. So now I know that my net marketed position is even more accurate by pulling in that inventory from FieldView. So let's go ahead and go back to the last part of this, which is importing my acres. So the 102 acres is what got pulled in for my crop plan from FieldView. I'm going to go ahead and click review. And then here, the last piece that I'd have to do is just add a projected yield per acre. So I'm going to add 50 bushels per acre as a target yield for me. Go ahead and click save. And then now that has been added to my projected inventory in Combyne. So again, I can tab over and now see here's my projected inventory for 2023 hard red spring wheat in Combyne. And Combyne does that quick math for me of total acres times target yield to give me 5,100 bushels. And again, just a bit more accurate there because maybe I was just doing this as a rough estimate and didn't actually know that, hey, I planted 102 acres. Maybe I said I planted 100. So just increasing that accuracy a little bit more. So my net marketed position is even more accurate reflection of what's actually happening on farm, and saves me a bit of time because this gets pulled in automatically and I don't have to type every little bit of information in. So that is the integration. That's what we're launching in August, coming up very soon. And as mentioned, this is really just the start to our partnership with FieldView. There's a lot more that we want to do related to connecting outcomes back to your fields that they came from, as well as field profitability. So if you're looking at this and thinking, sounds really cool, I'd love to get involved, I'd love to help the Combyne team and the FieldView team test this or give some feedback, please go ahead and reach out to anyone that's on the call here. You can always reach us at help@combyne.ag. Okay, so that is it. And I think now it's time for some Q&A.
Maybe one small thing to add. One of the things we pay attention to quite a bit is what are the different ways that different farmers will track how many bushels they ultimately have. So while in some cases FieldView might be a source of truth because combine monitors are properly, or yield monitors are properly calibrated and so forth. We've heard a lot of feedback that grain carts are often also a source of truth in terms of how many bushels are actually coming off various fields. So we're actively working on also using that as one of the sources of data that could be imported into Combyne, so that there's multiple paths depending on, you know, how a particular farmer chooses to run their operation, so that they can have the key grain marketing information they have all in one place.
Thanks for that addition, Alain, and big thank you to Laura, Joanna, and Patrick for running us through. And then the most importantly, thank you to Kara for joining. It's always great to hear directly from farmers on how they use the application. So appreciate you making time and joining us today. And like Laura said, with that, it's time for Q&A, and there are already three questions in the chat, so I'll just go through them. And probably Laura, you'll be the one to help us get to the answers of them. First one coming from James, asking if you can customize your delivery radius in Combyne.
Yeah. With the market insights feature, I'm assuming he's asking about that particular one where we said we show you a bid that's within 200 kilometers or 120 miles. At this point, no, that's our default setting. We have the option where you can go into your Combyne account and set a location. But we are working on improving this feature really soon. We're actually going to expand our partnership to pull in cash bids from not just FarmBucks, but a couple other sources as well, such as bar chart. So maybe changing your delivery radius could be something we'd include as a part of that as well.
Awesome, that's good to hear. And also excited for those changes to come and those features to launch. Again, looking a bit at the product roadmap, question coming from Shelby, if there are specific grain buying software platforms you are looking to partner with to pull in information from them today.
Yeah, so maybe I'll take this one. Without revealing at this point too much confidential information on things we're working on, when you think of sort of the providers of the different grain buyers software systems, you've got a lot of the white label providers, so bushel, bar chart, then there's some that are more focused on sort of desktop versions, so Harvest by RJ O'Brien. You know, there's sort of the Agris suite that has some element of contract management, so forth and so on. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we take a very neutral view relative to all those providers. Our end vision is to say, if a farmer wants to unify all their information in one single app, it shouldn't matter what kind of software the grain buyer happens to be using, whether they're a bushel customer, a bar chart customer, and so forth and so on. So we talk to all these different providers. They're at various stages of readiness to permit this. We also take the view, if they've built the software capability to do it, they're obviously a very quick partner for us. For those that aren't quite there, we just let them know what our long-term vision is. And this is where also the capability to close the gap with OCR plus the AI combination allows us to get that 100% coverage of wherever the grain transaction documents are coming from, regardless of which buyer you're dealing with. But yeah, our ultimate vision is the true unified Combyne Connect view, where it doesn't matter whether inside the farm gate, what kind of tools the farmer is using. If it has information relative to grain marketing, we should be able to pull it in. And then similarly outside the farm gate, so all the transaction documents, shouldn't matter in what format or what software suite the grain buyers are using, we should be able to pull it in. So we're marching towards that. And yeah, a couple concrete names that I think would resonate with the audience would be the bushel, the bar chart, Agris, AgVision, et cetera. Those are all, but anytime we're looking at a software solution that's tracking contracts, load tickets, and settlements, it's a relevant conversation for us.
Awesome. I've seen a thumbs up come through, so I'll take that as a positive sign and move to the next question. Looking at whether you can keep track of every field on your farm in Combyne, or whether it's a farm level more.
Yeah. Who wants to take this one from the combine side?
Yeah, so I think this is where these are always the fun dividing lines between, are we focused on managing the production of the crop, or are we focused on managing the marketing of the crop? If it's purely about managing a field, I tend to say that lives in better suited tools like FieldView, JD Ops, these things like that. And now the one ask we have a lot of is, can we map fields to on-farm storage and then contracts to that on-farm storage, right? We kind of need to do that if we ultimately want to link contracts and deliveries back to a specific field. So when it comes to tracking the field part, yeah, we are actively thinking about how do you think about the flow of physical bushels that are leaving the field, maybe going straight to a buyer for delivery or transiting through on-farm storage. So in that sense, we are actively thinking about how do we track fields. If it's literally tracking all the production activity and all the agronomic work on a field level, that would be typically better done in FieldView. So this is sort of this classic line between, are we focused on managing the production of the crop, or are we focused on managing the marketing? We really try to stick to this focus on the marketing of the crop and try to figure out, depending on the use case, Mike, that you have, we happy to hear it and figure out, okay, is this more in one category or the other? I'll answer, James, your question relative to location. So we didn't go into all the details, but we're also completely augmenting a lot of the functionality in the inventory tracking. So we're actually going to be launching a full virtual bin yard, but within that, you can actually split across different yards. So you can actually say have a 1 yard in one area with a set of bins, and then you can have another yard with another set of bins. You can also have packets of grain bags that are in a different. Farmers really organize physically how their inventory is set up, depending on across multiple locations, to represent that virtually in the app, and then obviously tie that to the contract flow, the field to the storage location flow. So a little bit what Kara was describing of kind of looking forward to, I go from harvest to flowing from field to bin to grain bag to whatever. We're trying to really help enable that and track that in Combyne. So stay tuned, but in the next week or two, we're going to be launching a lot of functionality and make sure it's ready for harvest time this coming fall.
Great. Thank you, Anna, and thank you to the Combyne team. Thank you to Kara, and thank you to everybody who's joining.